Hello and welcome back to ParticularPixels. I'm Xiaoling and this is Prey. I do apologize for the late video. I was unfortunately unable to get a review code for the game and was only informed the day after launch. Wonderful. So I only purchased it then, and thankfully it was only an 18GB download. Now, I've been looking forward to Prey since it was first announced. I am a huge fan of the System Shock series and have very fond memories of it. In fact, I would go as far as to say that System Shock is probably one of my all-time favorite games, and that there really aren't that many old school style games out there nowadays, and Prey looked to be exactly that, provided it was everything that they said it was going to be. Now, of course, many people have concerns about how the PC port would be handled, and of course I don't blame them considering the awful PC version of Dishonored 2, which I might add is still not fixed and was plagued with awful frame timing problems. So I have spent probably most of the weekend playing Prey, and according to the Steam stats I have 21 hours in the game. According to the game itself it's 15, since the game does not track reloads and retries. And I still have a ton of side quests to do. There are sections of Talos 1 that I've not even explored yet, and I'm itching to get back to playing the game. And I realized that if I follow my desire to keep playing the game, I'm never going to get this video done, so I thought I should probably get it done before I head back into the game. The first thing I want to say though is that the performance is great for the most part. The majority of the game runs at over 144 FPS at 1080p, with a few drops in certain places into the 130s. And while the game doesn't look amazing and doesn't come with all the bells and whistles that you'd expect for a game released in 2017, for example, when using your torch it doesn't cast any shadows on the objects that you shine it on, or the mirrors have no reflections and appear basically as silver plates, or that the game textures could probably do with some more work. If you've played any of the System Shock series, BioShock, or to an extent Deus Ex or Alien Isolation, you are going to have probably a pretty good idea what you can expect from Prey. You play as Morgan Yu. You can choose either a male or female character, although aside from changing the voice of the AI that talks to you through the majority of the game, I'm not sure how much of a narrative difference it actually makes, since of course I'm playing with the male at the moment. I guess I'll find out in my next playthrough when I switch genders. You wake up on Talos 1, something has gone very wrong, and you need to find out what happened and how you're going to fix it essentially. Now, I'm not going to speak about the story specifics in this video, since to me I think that that's best experienced in the game and I don't want to spoil it for anybody. The space station is taken over by an alien race by the name of the Typhoon. You'll be making your way through the various areas of Talos 1, fighting enemies, searching everything so that you can get ammo and weapons and other resources that you can break down into crafting materials that can be used to craft ammo and health kits and grenades and and things like that. Each area can be tackled in a number of different ways. The game does a pretty good job of being open-ended, so that you basically have free reign to go explore wherever you want. Some areas of course are going to be locked off for story reasons, other areas are going to be locked off until you find the correct key card. But there are very many areas that can be accessed by hacking locks if you have the hacking skill, or moving heavy objects out of the way if you have the lifting skill, or even if you manage to find alternative routes around them by finding creative ways to use your glue gun. There are computers scattered throughout the ship with emails that will fill in backstory, or audio logs that you'll pick up on dead crew members, or you'll find in cupboards that you can listen to that will do the same. And as you slowly progress through the game, you'll start to learn what happened to all the people in their final moments. Now, Talos 1, the space station, is actually pretty big. It's divided into a number of floors that themselves are pretty large to explore, and you can even go outside the airlock and explore the outside of the station, and there are numerous places that you can find and numerous secrets that you can find there as well. If you can see it, you can probably get there. And as you play through the game, you'll pick up side quests as well as progressing through the main storyline. You will be doing a lot of backtracking between the different areas in the game, much like you did in BioShock, much like you did in System Shock. There is a short loading screen every time you travel between a zone, but it is short enough not to interrupt the flow. And because the game is only 20 gigs big, I decided to put on my SSD, and the load times are incredibly quick. You'll of course encounter a number of different types of aliens on your travels. The first being the Mimic, which you have probably seen in very many of the videos that have been released, which has the ability to mimic objects it's near. So these little bastards will hide anywhere and could be anything. So be warned, when I started playing, I did find myself readying my wrench when approaching almost every single object in the game. Of course, as you progress later in the game, they become less of a scare factor because you're much more powerful and you get quite used to them by then. Phantoms are the larger, more humanoid-shaped typhoons that are far more dangerous than the mimics, of course, and they come in a variety of different flavors, fire and lightning and all kinds of other things. There are also a number of other enemies that I'm not going to spoil here in this video. I guess you'll have to find them out for yourself. All of the enemies though can eventually be scanned, giving you more information about them, and also will unlock psionic abilities that you can use and upgrade through neuromods. The game also provides you a number of weapons that you can use to deal with these enemies, from a wrench for melee attacks, a shotgun, silenced pistol, and a few others. Weapons can of course be upgraded to increase their damage or their ammo capacity or their recoil. You'll also be picking up neuromods, which serve as a way of upgrading your character, much like the plasmids in Bioshock and the cyber modules that are found in System Shock 2. There are 3 trees that you will start off with in Prey: Engineer, Science and Security. Between these 3 trees, you'll be improving your stealth, if that is what you want to do, increasing your hit points, improving your suit for more inventory space, and getting more slots to be able to put mods into your suit, or unlocking the ability to hack turrets or to repair turrets. There are a fair amount of skills here to choose from, and your choices really are going to have an impact on how you play the game and what routes you'll be taking through the levels and how you are going to be dealing with encounters in the game. Later in the game, you'll unlock an additional 3 skill trees that unlock psi abilities. The downside, of course, of putting too many points in the psi trees is that the station defenses are going to start attacking you as well. Combat in the game does feel very satisfying to me. Each weapon has its use. Of course, the glue gun is used to lock or stun enemies in place before hitting them or shooting them, which does more damage. Enemies all have different weaknesses and immunities, and so you'll need to be aware of these when you deal with the various enemies in the game. Now, when you start Prey, ammo in the game is very scarce, as are resources, which makes the game pretty challenging, especially at the start on normal mode. Running and gunning is going to get you killed. You need to use your equipment and abilities wisely, as well as using the environment to your advantage. I have seen some complaints about people talking about the difficulty on the Steam forums, but honestly, I think the game is fine as it is. People are far too used to games that hold your hand, and Prey harkens back to the day when you actually had to consider your approach to situations and watch your resources rather than just running in and having regenerating health. At the point I am in the game, I have far more resources and crafting materials than I could possibly need. And once you've dumped a few points into your skill trees, things of course are going to get easier as well. So for example, I have fully upgraded weapon damage in my skill tree. In the security skill tree, I fully upgraded the weapon itself with weapon upgrades, and on top of that I've spec'd into doing an additional 250% damage when attacking an enemy who is not aware of me. And of course walking and running quietly, so I can run up behind enemies and destroy them before they even know what happened. There are so many ways to build your character which I think will drastically affect the way that you approach the game, and this definitely leaves it open for multiple replays. Not to mention that there are at least 2 different endings in the game, and definitely a real incentive to play through at least twice. I am absolutely loving the game so far. It's really everything that I hoped it would be. It's System Shock 2 in 2017. The game even has a reference to Looking Glass Studios with the Looking Glass servers in the game, and of course the 0451 code to your office. But that's not to say that I haven't come across any problems in Prey. There aren't very many issues, but there are some that I think need to be mentioned. After playing the game for a while, sometimes the frame rate will drop. In a place where it was 130, it would suddenly be stuttery and level out at 90, and the game would seem more jerky. And this happened in several areas of the game, but seems more connected to the length of time that I played rather than a specific area. Restarting the game always fixed the issue. Another issue is screen space reflections. They don't work when you load up the game for the first time, even if you have the settings enabled on full. You need to turn their resolution down to half, apply it, and then turn it back up to full before it actually works in the game. I don't know if this needs to be done each time a save loads or if it's only the first time you load the game. I stopped bothering after the first few tries since it's quite inconvenient, and honestly I didn't notice a massive visual difference. It is annoying though, and I do hope they plan on fixing these issues. And finally, and this is probably my biggest complaint with Prey, When listening to your audio comms or audio recordings and audio logs, the volume is incredibly low. It's difficult to hear what you're saying on top of all the other in-game sounds. The games like System Shock and Bioshock would automatically lower the game volume when you listen to these playbacks, but that doesn't seem to be the case in Prey. You can of course turn down the sound effects volume and the music volume to 20% or lower and leave the voice volume at 100% and then turn up your speakers. The problem with that is, of course, when normal dialogue plays, it's going to blast out through your speakers and make you deaf. Changing your speaker setup from 5.1 to stereo does alleviate this a little bit, but it doesn't fix the issue entirely. Now, none of these problems, with the exception of the dialogue volume being way too low for audio logs, detracted from my enjoyment of the game. So yeah, what do I think of Prey? As you can probably tell from what I've been saying, I think the game is great. It's really been a long time since I've been so immersed in the game. Prey is really good, guys. Now, perhaps its atmosphere is not quite as creepy, or the sense of loneliness is not quite as strong, and the enemies maybe not quite as varied as System Shock 2, but it gets so much right. It's the kind of game that I could easily restart once I've finished my first playthrough of it and just play through again. Now, if you are hoping for a casual run and gun shooter on a space station, I think you're going to have to look somewhere else. This game does not hold your hand in any way, shape or form, and if you're the kind of player who just wants an easy pick up and play kind of game, this game's probably going to test your patience because it can be quite difficult even on the normal setting. However, if you are a fan of System Shock, I don't know what you're waiting for. Go out and buy this game immediately. You aren't going to regret it. And for those of you who enjoyed Bioshock, Deus Ex, or even to an extent Alien Isolation, this really is probably going to be right up your alley. To me, this is Game of the Year material. Anyways guys, those are my thoughts on Prey. Hope some of you found it helpful. If you have any comments or questions, as usual, you can leave them in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and a share. If not, you can dislike it as well. Don't forget to subscribe if you want updates on new videos. I've been Xiaoling, and it's time for me to get back to Talos 1.